Hey guys, did you know that I have a Patreon where you can support me and plus get awesome rewards? Or if you're thinking to yourself, but Julian, I want even more bang for my buck while still supporting you, you can pop over to my Redbubble and check out my awesome store with new designs appearing regularly. But for now, enjoy the video you're about to watch.
Hey everyone, it's me, Julian Greystoke. I'm wearing this Grey Warden shirt because we're going to talk about a fantasy sword fighty book of coolness. Also, I have a new notebook for work. It's really pretty and I like it. And in my very first review that I've written down in it is for the sheep farmer's daughter. So what is this book about? Well, this book follows a character who has a long name that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but her nickname is Pax, so we're going to call her Pax. Pax or Pox? Now I can't remember. I'm going to call her Pax and probably be wrong. Anyway, she is being forced by her father to marry the pig farmer next door, and she is like, nah fam, and she leaves almost immediately and goes to join the army because that's just the life that she wants to have. And it's pretty much just following Pax and her time with this unit. They work for a duke. They're sort of like privateers but on land because they're mercenaries, but they're not like the mercenaries we're used to thinking of who are like, we'll fight for the highest bidder and blah blah blah. They follow this duke, he pays them, and they are loyal to him. Yeah, we just follow her as she does her thing with the army. She gets into many a battle, goes where the duke tells her, you know, rescue missions, liberating forts, holding forts. And it's just her going through her life, starting as a grunt, the lowliest soldier, and gaining a few ranks throughout this book. Eventually, I know she's probably going to go really high in the ranks, but in this book she still stays pretty low in the ranks and pretty relatable. So that's pretty much it. The Duke is sort of low-key pursuing this person called the Honey Cat, who is sort of a bad person who's going around like sacking villages and kidnapping people and doing bad things. And the Duke is trying to like ferret him out and kill him. But that's not like, there's no big overarching world-ending threat going on. It's just following this person through her military career. And you know what? I liked it. I didn't expect to like it. This was one of those books that I picked up at the library because I was waiting for other books that I'm excited about to come in. I was just like, whatever. I don't usually get along with adult fantasy because it's usually so dense and so world-building heavy and politics and all this shit that I don't care about. And I was like, this is probably going to be the same, but I picked it up. And you know what? I was entertained, and I think it is because this book does not have a lot of dense world building. This book does not have a lot of dense politics. So if you like those two things, this book won't be for you. What it did have is military stuff, and I'm into that. So there you go. So let's talk about this a little bit. The style of this book was reminiscent of older fantasy stories. It uses the very telly, fast-moving, keeping the characters at arm length kind of style. And that's another reason that I thought I wasn't really going to like this book. Because I like to be in deep with the characters. I like to be in their heads and know their thoughts and feelings. And like I said, even our main character was really kept at arm's length. We very rarely knew what Pax was thinking or feeling. We just knew how she was behaving. And normally that wouldn't work for me, but I think the way that this book did it, it actually kind of did work for me. I am a big proponent of how the characters behave, showing the reader how they think. And how a character behaves is very important to showing the reader who that character is. Now, like I said, this book didn't really have anything else, any other way of showing you who that character was, but I think it did work. And the fact that Pax is a pretty simple character, let's be honest. A lot of people have criticized this, that she seems kind of dumb and she seems kind of simple or whatever, and I'm like, she's just a sheep farmer's daughter. Like, she's learning, okay? And she is learning and she does get better and she does kind of grow in her skill, but she's not like this amazing, brainy person who doesn't really belong in the army. She's the sort of person who kind of belongs in the army. A sword and a shield, here we go, I will do my job. So it didn't bother me too much that Pax wasn't a particularly deep character mentally. But if you are the kind of person who doesn't like that arm's length, fast-paced, telly kind of storytelling style, this book might not be for you, and it almost wasn't for me. This is a pretty classic fantasy world. They don't do much to flesh it out. You are told that there are dwarves and elves and orcs in this world, and you do see some of them briefly, but for the majority of it, it's almost like, why are they even mentioned? Because humans fighting humans is the majority of this book, and elves and dwarves and orcs and stuff never really come into it with any kind of importance. I was there for that. I was a little annoyed that elves and dwarves and stuff had to exist at all in a world that was so obviously just didn't need them. Maybe they're going to come up in future books, I don't know, but the fact that like they were just put aside and it wasn't all this dense world building stuff was my jam. The women in the culture, in Pax's culture, are allowed to be soldiers, and nobody thinks anything of it. I really liked that. Pax gives a speech later on. They meet some people whose culture does not have women soldiers, and she talks to this person and she like explains like, I wanted to be a soldier. Being a soldier is what I wanted to do. I am big enough and strong enough to be a soldier. I never wanted to be a housewife. I never wanted to get married and raise children. So why should the life that I want be kept away from me because I am a woman? And I mean, the speech I feel like is better in the book, but I appreciated that quite a bit. You can be a female and a warrior, and they do see women who are not well suited to being warriors as well, but it is completely normal in their society for women to be warriors, to be commanders, to rise through the ranks, and I liked it. So I do want to talk about my biggest problem that I had with this book was a scene near the beginning, and I am going to spoil it. It is kind of the first like big scene, big like plot point that we get, and it made me very angry. It's the first time that we're sort of out of Pax's point of view. Like, even though we're at arm's length with Pax, we are mostly in her point of view still. And this is the first time that we're out of her point of view. And it was a little bit confusing even how it happened, but it sort of comes to light that Pax was attacked by one of her fellow male soldiers, possibly more than one, and raped. And they had this whole trial, you know, trying to figure out what happened, because the men were claiming that Pax attacked them, and the people who examined Pax are like, no, she was obviously attacked and raped, so what happened here? And, you know, I will tell you that eventually, yes, the men do get convicted of the rape, and they do get punished appropriately for it. But this whole thing was, I just hated this whole sequence. For one thing, Pax herself, like, never ever seemed to be affected by it. They were just like, oh, you were sexually assaulted. And she was like, oh, okay, well that kind of sucked, I guess. And like nothing, this is where being kept at arm's length really like damaged her character, and she never really reacted to it. She was just like, oh, I guess these guys attacked me, and also they raped me, and it didn't affect her at all. I didn't mind the way that it was being treated as like the investigation and stuff. It is kind of frustrating because, you know, we've seen a lot of rape investigations, and ones that go poorly in real life. You know, shouldn't they just believe that she was raped, you know? But she was unconscious for the rape, so she can't really say yes or I was or no I wasn't. She doesn't even know herself. So it was very frustrating to read, and I was not on board with it, and it almost made me put the book down, especially since we weren't in her point of view anymore, so it was all other people talking about her, talking about how they were going to deal with her problems. Well, she just kind of chilled. And then when we did get back into her head, she just like was obviously completely unaffected by this horrifying thing that happened to her, and that really bothered me quite a lot. Also, this never comes up again in the book. This entire sequence could have been cut out of the book wholesale, and the book would have been completely unaffected. So I would say if you are sensitive to that kind of thing, you could skip this section and keep going and enjoy the rest of this book without it and be 100% fine. So if this book interests you but you don't want to read that rape section, just fucking skip it and you won't miss a damn thing. This book does move along pretty quickly. There are like a couple of like set pieces where we stay in one place for a little while, or we stay on one plot line for a little while, but really you're just kind of da-da-da-da-da. You're just going through Pax's life and her military career. And honestly, I liked it. This book like didn't give me a chance to dwell on anything. Like, it didn't give me a chance to sit here and go, oh, maybe this is pretty poorly written. It was just like, nope, shit's happening. We're at war. Fuck. If this book had slowed down at any point and given me the chance to really appreciate how simply written it was, I might have set it down. But because it kept the action flowing, I still managed to just keep enjoying this book, keep being excited to listen to it the next day, because of course I was listening to it. Injuries, I loved. Injuries are plentiful and they matter. Characters are constantly getting hurt or killed because they are constantly in battle. When you're a grunt on the front line with your sword and shield in the shield line, you're not going to get out of that battle with an injury. And 9 times out of 10, Pax is injured and taken out of the battle before it is even over. And I really liked that, and I felt that was very realistic. There is magic in this world, and sometimes injuries can be treated with magic, but magic is very expensive, and the gods don't always grant like the healing magic, because magic is controlled by the gods. So I liked that that injuries were happening, and injuries were lasting, and injuries were mattering, and people died from infected wounds, and it was just mwah, yes. Speaking of deaths, there are deaths. A lot of them. Of people that you like. And magic doesn't bring them back. And again, mwah. So happy. So happy. What we do get, there's not a lot of talk about, religions and politics and stuff like that, which again, I am there for because I don't like that. It's too dense and boring. But you do get a little bit. You get little snippets of the different human cultures, like just enough to give you an idea of who these people are, what gods they follow, what the rules of their customs are, but not so much that you're drowning in it. And it's like just the right amount for me personally. Also, if you're into military tactics and formation fighting and that sort of thing, this book is for you. This is possibly where the book was like the densest, and I am so there for it. I ate it up with a spoon. I frickin' love it. This was exactly the kind of thing that I want in my fantasy story. Fuck politics, fuck religion, give me them down and dirty military tactics, formation fighting, what is each unit doing, all of that shit. Yes, please. Also, if you cannot wait for my book, Boots, to be published to get yourself a kick-ass, aromantic, asexual female character, then this book might be the one for you. Pax basically just straight up comes out and says, I'm not interested in sex, I'm not interested in marriage. I pretty much just like killing things with swords. I've only read the first book, so there may be romantic interest for her later. She might turn out to be Grey Ace, or she might turn out to be Demi, but right now she is very clearly Arrow Ace. I wrote down that this book reminded me of Tamara Pierce, except for on a longer scale, like a longer period of time, but less depth with the characters. So the parts of it that did remind me of Pierce, I think also really helped me stay on board with this book. So there you go, those are my thoughts on The Sheep Farmer's Daughter. Have you read it? What did you think about it? Comment below and let me know, and if you are into military tactics in medieval times, this might be the book for you. As most of you know, I post new videos Mondays and Fridays. All the links to my social media are in the doobly-doo for ease of clicking. If you want to keep up with what books I'm reading and get my thoughts the moment that I finish a book, please follow me on Goodreads, where I do smaller reviews right away, and then you can wait for my more in-depth reviews to show up here on my channel. And of course, if you liked what you saw here but wish it was higher quality, then you can support me on Patreon, where I am saving up all donations to buy better equipment that I so desperately need. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. And I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
Hey everybody, it is shout out time. Time for me to shout out to my amazing patrons, Kim, Sarah, and Savvy Panda. So if you want to be cool like these great people, then become my patron over on Patreon.